Hello guys, despite all the efforts and Russia's experience in informational operations, with each day it becomes more and more difficult for the Kremlin to hide the truth about the vulnerability of the Russian air defense and their failures on the front lines, in economy, in the geopolitical sphere. And right now, as I record this video, thousands of people are without electricity, and not just in Ukraine, but also in Russia, actually in Moscow and Krasnodar regions. Finally, after 4 years of this really long war, Russians taste their own medicine, and this is a huge change in the course of war. Because with each day, Ukraine gets stronger and more experienced, while Russia gets weaker and more exhausted. And I'm sure that now more and more Russians understand they don't enjoy war when it takes place in their capital, in their regions. I'm also proud that each of such strikes on electric substations in Russia are always near various military sites. For example, in Serpukhov of the Moscow region, it is near Russia's military academy of missile forces. And in Yeysk of Krasnodar region, it's close to a military airbase and a drone arsenal. Actually, we often visit that Yeysk with the Ukrainian drones. But anyway, now is the time to remain united and to keep demilitarizing Russia because it is the weakest and the poorest ever. Now is not the time to appease Putin. I'm sure nobody wants to see him as the ruler of the Kremlin for the next 25 years. So the time is to act, and that's exactly what we are doing. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine. Subscribe and share to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine and to spread some important and good news. Because unfortunately, global media is still extremely Moscow-centered. So they keep analyzing what the Kremlin says and then write articles about that. And the Kremlin tries everything to hide the truth even from their population. One of the reasons why in 2025 Russia was on the top of the ranking of countries where they turn off internet. That's the way to prevent people from sharing the information about more outages, blackouts, explosions, and cancelled flights, rising prices, and so on and so forth. So let's talk more about these thousands of Russians without electricity. An important reminder, it was not our choice. Ukraine defends itself, and the moment millions of Russians say we don't want this war, it stops. The moment they leave our country, we start rebuilding it. But as long as they choose to burn billions of dollars destroying Ukrainian kindergartens, we are going to defend ourselves effectively and deliver more and more messages to the Russian population, including in Moscow. That is super important because Russia is a very centralized country despite the name they acquired as a federation. And all the main decisions are made in Moscow, St. Petersburg, and any problems in these cities are real threats to the Putin's regime. So right now, thousands of people in Serpukhov, which is the suburbs of Moscow, are without electricity because of a fire on one of their big electric substations. And what is important, it provided electricity to Russia's military academy of missile forces located less than 3.5 kilometers away from that electric substation. And I'm sure those people who now experience long hours without electricity, just as we do in Ukraine, and the frost in Moscow is way worse. It may be like minus 31 Celsius these nights. They start doubting whether Putin is indeed a master strategist and more speak out. What's interesting, Russian oligarchs who supported Putin at the beginning or who doubted, but anyway saw a possibility to earn some money during Russian war against Ukraine now are very frightened and predict the bankruptcy of thousands of Russian companies. And we have a long and very important video on Anna Danilchuk channel today that is based on Oleg Deripaska, a very famous Russian oligarch businessman, and others, and their concerns about the economic crisis in Russia that, according to them, has already started and is Actually, extremely big, way bigger than anything they experienced in the 90s. Another target, another substation that was turned off is in Yeisk of Krasnodar region. Approximately 80,000 people are without electricity, and Yeisk is a military hub. I often mention it, and those of you who follow our Russian geography lessons may remember that's a location where we destroyed a huge Shahed drone arsenal in 2024 and some time later too. And also it is a location of a military airbase that Russians use to prepare their aircraft to later target Ukrainian cities. So the mission of our defense, of our drones, is first of all to defend Ukrainian people, to prevent their attacks on our homes. Russia began this war. Russia broke the international law. Russia decided to undermine the world order that helped so many nations live more or less peacefully during decades after the Second World War. And the only way to end this madness is to defeat, demilitarize Russia, deliver justice. Because you might have noticed the world entered this very dangerous stage of chaos. And if people are not held accountable for such ideas to invade other nations, other territories, to undermine sovereignty, independence, agreements, I'm not talking just about Russia and Ukraine. I'm even talking about Greenland, and all my support goes to people in Denmark. I know we have a lot of good friends in our community, and trust me, Ukraine supports Greenland, Denmark, and stands together with you. Let me know in the comments below, do you think that Russians change their opinion about this war, and can we expect some protests or some more serious reactions during this year? Personally, I believe yes. Unfortunately, it's not because they care about lives of the Ukrainian children or the international law, but because they start feeling this war literally in their homes, on their streets, and most importantly, in their pockets. Remember to follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Discord, all the links in the description of this video, same as the link to our merch shop. And we still have a special offer on calendars that remind you about Ukrainian victories or introduce you to beautiful locations all over Ukraine. And you know that all our community is invited to visit my beautiful country, but only after we defeat and demilitarize Russia. One more reason to speed up the process. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channels, but most importantly, thank you for being friends of mine and friends of Ukraine. United we stand. Slava Ukraini!